The stars above the dead system were cold and silent. No light, no warmth. Only a single station floated in the darkness, orbiting a black, lifeless star. Inside, the alien officer Varkle sat at his console, eyes half closed, ready to end. His long and boring shift? He had been here for years, listening to empty space. His job was to monitor signals, distress calls, ship logs, drifting transmissions from faraway worlds. Most of the time, there was nothing but static. But tonight, something strange broke through the silence. A faint sound, almost like a whisper, touched the edge of his hearing. He frowned and adjusted the receiver. The signal was weak, almost gone, as if it had traveled for centuries. Static filled the room, but through the noise came a human voice. "We chose peace once." Varkle froze. It was an Earth language, recognized the tone calm but heavy with meaning. He tapped the controls, running a quick translation. The voice returned, stronger this time. "Now the choice is war." Then, silence. Varkle's fingers tightened on the console. Humans. He had not heard their voices in years. Not since the Great Treaty ended the First Contact War. They were supposed to be peaceful now, limited in power, watched closely by the Galactic Council. Why would they send such a message? His commander entered the room, tall and cold-eyed. "Report." Varkle hesitated. "I picked up a signal. Human origin. Old, but directed." "Delete it," the commander said without interest. "Earth's problems are not our concern, but delete it, officer. That is an order." The commander left without another word. Varkle sat in silence, staring at the blinking light on his console. He knew protocol. He should erase it, log the signal as unimportant, and move on. But something in the voice refused to leave. His mind, the words were simple, but they carried weight. Like a promise made long ago and never forgotten. He copied the signal to his private recorder. If his superiors found out, it would mean punishment. But he had to know the rest. Working. Carefully, he began to decode the faint layers hidden inside the static. The signal was not just words, it carried coordinates. Numbers flashed on his screen, forming a location deep inside alien territory. He leaned closer. It was not near Earth. In fact, it was far from any known human system. Why would they send a message there? The coordinates pointed to a cluster of stars known as the Black-Reached Dangerous Space, controlled by the Zarnax Empire. Varkle's pulse quickened. The Zarnax were one of the most feared powers in the galaxy. They had been enemies of humanity before the peace. He played the message again, trying to hear something new. "We chose peace once. Now the choice is war." The voice was old, cracked with age, but firm. It sounded like someone speaking to the whole galaxy. Someone unafraid. For a moment, Varkle imagined the humans of the past, the way they had fought during the First Contact War. The Council had been shocked by their will to resist, even when outnumbered. The humans had eventually agreed to peace, but it had not been surrender. He wondered, had they been waiting all these years? The station around him was silent, the dead star outside casting no light. He felt as if the darkness was listening, holding its breath. Somewhere far away, ships could already be moving. Varkle downloaded the full transmission into a secure device and slipped it into his uniform. If this was real, it was bigger than any order, bigger than any station duty. The air in the room felt colder. He had just broken one of the most serious rules in the listening course. But his mind was already far away, chasing the mystery. Why now? Why send this message after decades of quiet? And why send it into alien space instead of to their own worlds? He thought of the old stories, the humans who had been left behind during the war, stranded in alien territories when the treaty was signed, forgotten by both sides. If they had survived. Maybe this message was not from Earth at all. Maybe it was from them. The console beeped softly. The signal was gone, fading into nothing. No one else on the station had noticed it. It was his secret now. Varkle stood and looked out through the station's observation glass. The black star below was dead, but far beyond it, he saw the faint glitter of distant systems. Somewhere out there, war might already be coming, And now, he was part of it. He turned away from the window and began making preparations. If the coordinates were correct, he could reach the Black Reach in less than a cycle. Officially, he would be on routine patrol.
Unofficially. God.
He would follow the message. As he left the room, the words echoed in his mind again, quiet but unshakable. We chose peace once. Now the choice is war. And Varkol, without knowing why, believed them. 40 years earlier, the galaxy had been on fire. The first contact war between humanity and the Galactic Council had raged across dozens of systems. The humans had been a young race, with small fleets and fragile colonies, but they fought with a stubbornness that shocked the galaxy. The war ended not because humans were defeated, but because both sides were exhausted. The Council offered peace, and Earth accepted. That moment became known as the Treaty of Soul. To the public, the treaty was a symbol of hope. But in the shadows, something far darker was written into its hidden pages. The Zarnax Empire, one of the Council's most powerful members, hated humans. They claimed Earth's expansion threatened their borders. In secret meetings, far from the public eye, the Zarnax demanded control over certain human colonies on the edge of space. The Council, desperate to end the war, agreed. But they never told Earth. Those colonies, small struggling settlements on cold, distant worlds, were left unprotected. Within months, Zarnax warships appeared. The humans there had no defense fleets, no reinforcements. Some were enslaved, others simply vanished. Official reports called it voluntary relocation. But survivors whispered another name for it: betrayal. On Earth, Captain Elias Var of the Solar Defense Fleet was one of the few who learned the truth. A decorated war hero, he had seen too much to believe in clean endings. He read the hidden treaty lines with cold fury. "They think peace means we'll kneel," he told his officers one night, his voice like steel. "But the day they break this peace, we will make them remember why they feared us." From that night, a secret project began, Project Silent Sky. Its purpose was simple: prepare for the day peace failed. The humans could not match the alien fleets in numbers, but they could learn their weaknesses, study their tactics, build weapons the Council did not know existed. The project was buried deep under layers of secrecy. Only a handful of high-ranking officers knew it existed. To the rest of the galaxy, humanity seemed quiet, obedient, almost harmless. But Captain Var had another plan. He reached out to the forgotten colonies, those abandoned by the treaty. Some survivors had escaped Zarnax space, living as traders, smugglers, and mercenaries. Others remained hidden in alien territories, slowly gathering strength to them. Var sent a single promise: "When the time comes, we will answer." Years passed. Leaders changed. Peace became normal. Our children grew up never knowing there had been a war at all. But in the cold places between the stars, the survivors remembered. They taught their children the truth. They kept their old ships ready, even if they were rusting. They waited now in the present, aboard his small patrol craft. Varkol stared at the coordinates hidden in the transmission he had stolen. He had run the location through the archives, and the answer chilled him. It pointed directly to a massive Zarnax weapons depot. Officially, such a depot should not even exist there. The Council claimed it had been dismantled years ago. Varkol knew the Zarnax well enough to suspect the truth: they never destroyed anything that could still kill. If the humans had sent a message to those coordinates, it could mean only one thing. Someone wanted the Zarnax to hear it. But why? It's a warning or a challenge. Varkol pulled up more information. The depot was in the Black Reach, far from any Council fleet patrols. If someone attacked it, help would take days to arrive. Days were more than enough time for destruction. A thought struck him: what if this wasn't from Earth's current government at all? What if it was from the descendants of those abandoned colonies? The ones who had every reason to hate the Zarnax. He closed his eyes and remembered the human voice on the transmission. It hadn't sounded like a speech from a politician. It sounded like a soldier. Varkol's console bipped an incoming patrol check from the listening station. He quickly locked away the data and sent back a false status report. He had no intention of returning to duty just yet. The corridor. Outside his cabin was quiet. Most of the crew had no idea what he had just discovered, and he intended to keep it that way. He activated his ship's engines, setting a course for the Black Reach. The journey would take him into dangerous space, but the choice was already made. He had to see it for himself. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was the kind of moment that changed history. 40 years ago, humanity had chosen peace because they had no other choice. But now, maybe they did. Varkle didn't know if the humans could win a war against the Council or the Drenok. But he knew one thing: if they were truly coming, they would not stop halfway. The forgotten treaty had hidden a wound for decades. Now it was bleeding again. And somewhere out there, someone had decided it was time for the galaxy to remember why humans had once made the stars afraid. The Black Reach was not a place most pilots entered willingly. The space here was darker than normal, except the stars themselves kept their distance. Ancient wrecks drifted between fractured moons. Old battles had been fought here, the kind one wrote about in history records. Varkle's small patrol craft slipped quietly into the region, its engines running on low power to avoid detection. He had followed the coordinates from the human transmission for days, taking long and dangerous routes to avoid Drenok patrols. His sensors warned him of gravitational traps, head signs of mined asteroids, and hidden defense turrets. The Drenok were paranoid about this depot. It made Varkle even more certain that something important was happening here. He had just adjusted his course when a sudden alert flashed on his screen. A small ship was trailing him. Varkle cursed under his breath. He had been too careful for this to be coincidence. He powered his shields, but before he could lock weapons, a voice came over the comms in a language the translator quickly identified as human standard. "If you want to live, don't point your guns at me." The voice was sharp, female, and carried a confidence that made Varkle pause. "This is restricted space," he replied, keeping his tone cold. "Identify yourself." A laugh came through the speakers, dry and amused. "My name's Ray Carter, and you're flying straight into a storm you don't understand." Varkle's eyes narrowed. "You're human. You're quick," she said. "Now, tell me, did you pick up a signal recently? One about choosing peace and war?" Varkle's fingers hesitated over the controls. "Maybe." "Good," Ray said. "Because if you did, that means you've just stepped into the middle of Project Silent Sky." The name hit him like a punch. It was classified even in the Council's restricted files, spoken about only in rumors. An old human war plan from the days after the treaty. "I thought it was only a myth," Varkle said slowly. Ray's voice turned hard. "It's no myth. It's been waiting for 40 years. She asked for permission to dock, and though every instinct told Varkle to refuse, he agreed. Moments later, a weathered human ship clamped onto his airlock. The woman who stepped through was lean, sharp-eyed, and carried herself like someone who had seen more than her share of battles. She wore no uniform, only a worn jacket with a faded insignia on the sleeve, a symbol Varkle recognized from old war records. "You're not from Earth," Varkle guessed. Ray shook her head. "Born in Drenok space. My parents were part of the colonies they abandoned in the treaty. I've been running jobs on the edge of the Reach ever since." She studied him for a moment. "You don't look like a loyal Drenok lapdog. Why are you following the signal?" "I want to understand it," Varkle admitted. It didn't sound like a call for help. It sounded like a warning. Ray smiled without humor. "Not a warning, a rally cry. The fleets are already moving." Varkle's stomach tightened. "The human fleet. That's impossible." "The Council monitors. They monitor Earth," Ray interrupted. "Not us. Not the colonies they left behind. We've been building in secret. Smuggling weapons, training crews. You think we just forgot what they did to us?" She activated a small hologram on the table between them. Dozens of red points lit up on a star map. They were all near the Black Reach. "These aren't Earth ships," Ray said. "They're ours. Independents, pirates, traders, mercenaries, every one of them human. And they're here for the depot." Varkle stared at the map. "That depot is heavily armed. If the Drenok discover your forces, they already know," Ray said quietly. "That's the point. It's the message you heard." It wasn't sent to Earth. It was sent to every human still living under alien rule. A signal to rise. He realized then why the words had felt so heavy. They weren't meant for aliens. They were meant for the survivors. The deck shook under their feet. Alarms screamed through Varkel's ship. He rushed to the console and saw the multiple human ships dropping out of FTL. Weapons ready. Through the viewport, he saw them small, fast attack craft darting toward the depot like hunting wolves. The first explosions bloomed against the darkness. Ray didn't look surprised. It's only the beginning, she said. We take out the depot, and the Zarnax will have no choice but to answer. That's when the real war starts. Varkel turned to her. If this war begins, the Council will crush you. Maybe, Ray said, her voice steady. But they'll remember we fought, and that's all that matters. The attack outside intensified. Zarnax defense turrets lit up the void, but the human ships moved with deadly precision. As if they had been practicing for this exact moment, Varkel realized he was watching the first shots of a war the galaxy thought would never come again, and somewhere far from here, Earth might not even know it had already started. The wreckage of the Zarnax siege platform still burned in the void, drifting among shattered ships and frozen bodies. But the silence didn't last. The Zarnax fleet came back. From the far edge of the Black Reach, dozens of warships emerged from hyperspace-leak black holes, their forward weapons glowing with deadly power. They weren't here to defend the depot anymore. They were here to destroy everything. Varkel's scanners lit up with warning after warning. The Zarnax had brought their Blood Fleet veteran warships armed with experimental weapons the Council had forbidden decades ago. If they broke through the human lines, entire planets could burn. This is it, Ray Carter said, tightening her harness. No more skirmishes. This is the real fight. The Earth Defense Fleet shifted into formation. Admiral Lilius's voice came over the calm but hard. All ships target their command carriers. Do not give them a chance to regroup. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity bows to no empire. The words hit Varkel like a strike to the chest. Here was no politician, no council diplomat speaking. This was a soldier ready to fight to the last. The two fleets collided in a storm of light and steel. Railgun fire streaked between ships. Plasma beams cut across the darkness, slicing through holes. Missile swarms lit up the void like burning meteors. Varkel flew alongside Ray, weaving between capital ships, targeting vulnerable weapon ports. Every second felt like it could be his last. The Zarnax fought with cold precision, each ship moving in perfect formation. But the humans fought like fire-fast, chaotic, impossible to predict. They struck from impossible angles, turning their smaller numbers into an advantage. Even so, the Zarnax numbers began to overwhelm them. One by one, human ships fell. Varkel's crackled Zarnax, fleet command broadcasting on open channels. The voice was deep, filled with scorn. Humans, your defiance ends here. Your worlds will kneel again, and this time, forever. This voice cut in, sharp. Not this time. She looked at Varkel, her eyes hard. You've got a choice, alien. Stay neutral and watch us die. Or help finish what your council started when they abandoned us. Varkel hesitated. He had sworn loyalty to the council, to its laws and its order. But those same laws had allowed the Zarnax to take human worlds, to enslave colonies, to hide the truth from the galaxy. And now here he was, fighting side by side with the very people he had once been told to watch. He made his choice. Kel switched his to the Earth Fleet channel. This is Varkel of the Listening Corps. I have access to Council frequency codes, can break the Zarnax encrypted comms and expose them to the entire sector. Admiral Ilias didn't hesitate. Do it. Varkel's claws flew over the controls. He tapped into the Zarnax secure network, pulling files, intercepting commands, broadcasting them wide. Across the galaxy, ships, stations, and news relays lit up with the truth, evidence of the hidden treaty, of the Council's betrayal, of the Zarnax crimes. It spread like wildfire. Every alien world now saw what had been hidden for 40 Years the Dreadnought fleet faltered, their command channels filled with confusion and panic as allies demanded answers. In that moment of hesitation, the humans struck hard. Admiral Ilias's flagship led the charge, driving straight into the Dreadnought command carrier. The battle turned into chaos. Ships exploded on both sides. Debris fields swallowed entire squadrons. Varkle and Ray punched through the enemy flank, targeting their engines, leaving the Dreadnought ships stranded and vulnerable. When the last Dreadnought carrier went down, it wasn't with a silent death erupted in a blinding explosion that lit up the Black Reach. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. Kel floated in the quiet aftermath, staring at the wreckage. His came alive one last time. Admiral Ilias's voice broadcast not just to the fleet but to every corner of the galaxy. We chose peace once, and we will again, but not today. Today we remind the stars that humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. And when the choice is war, humanity wins. The transmission echoed across space, carried by hundreds of relays. On distant worlds, humans in hiding heard it and stood taller. On alien stations, whispers began fear, respect, and the first sparks of rebellion. Ray leaned back in her seat, exhausted but smiling. Told you it was worth it. Varkle didn't answer right away. He was thinking of what this meant for the Council, for the Dreadnought, for himself. He had crossed a line he could never uncross. But as he looked at the surviving human ships, battered but still flying, he felt something strange in his chest. Pride, the stars had fallen silent for too long. Now they would never be quiet again. The first explosions lit up the Black Reach like silent fireworks. Kel's viewport glowed with bursts of light as the independent human ships struck the Dreadnought weapons depot. Small, fast crafts slipped between defense turrets, firing precise. Shots that turned armored towers into clouds of molten debris. Inside his ship, alarms blared. The Dreadnought were responding. Fast, heavy cruisers were launching from hidden hangars within the depot. Carter stood behind Varkle, arms crossed, watching the chaos with a strange calm. We've been waiting for this moment for 40 years. Varkle's hands tightened on the controls. You don't understand what you've done. Once the Dreadnought call for reinforcements, this entire sector will burn. That's the point, Ray replied. A deep mechanical roar echoed through the channels of Dreadnought war cry. The heavy cruisers moved into formation, weapons glowing. With charging energy? Then Varkle saw something on his scanners that made his blood run cold. A massive energy spike. The depot's central chamber was powering up something far stronger than ship weapons. He zoomed in on the readings and saw it a massive ancient weapon built into the heart of the station. Long-range plasma projectors, powerful enough to burn a city from orbit? That's not just a depot, Varkle muttered. It's a siege platform. Ray's face hardened. And they're going to use it, before either of them could. Speak again. The weapon fired. A blinding spear of light tore across space, hitting one of the attacking human ships Didon. It didn't just explode. It vanished, turned into glowing fragments and vapor in a heartbeat. The shockwave rattled Varkle's ship. Ray swore under her breath. If they aim that at a planet, they will. Varkle cut in. The nearest planet in their sights is in human space. Across the battle, human ships regrouped. Some pulled back, while others dove directly toward the weapons core. They moved like they had trained for this exact assault fast. It's unpredictable, hitting from multiple angles. But the Dreadnought were ready. Their defense grid tightened. Locking corridors of plasma fire into the void, Varkle's instincts screamed at him to leave. But his hands stayed on the controls. If that weapon stayed active, the war would begin with a slaughter. Then something unexpected happened. From the far side of the Black Reach, new ships emerged from hyperspace, sleek, powerful, unmistakable. The Earth Defense Fleet. Varkle stared. They came. The sight made Ray grin like a predator. I told you, Silent Sky isn't just ours anymore. The Earth fleet moved with deadly precision, sliding into the chaos without hesitation. They didn't hail the Dreadnought, didn't issue warnings. They simply opened fire. The void turned into a burning storm. Massive railgun slugs punched through Zarnax holes. Missile swarms exploded against shield arrays. Siege platform's armor began to crack under the combined assault. But the Zarnax didn't retreat. They doubled their efforts, focusing everything on the platform's weapon. Its core began to glow. Brighter a second shot was charging. Next one won't be for a ship, Varkle said grimly. They'll fire it toward a planet. Ray strapped herself into the co-pilot seat. Then we make sure they never get the chance. She linked her ship's systems to his. In seconds, they were diving straight into the heart of the battle. Weaving between burning wreckage and blinding flashes, the siege platform loomed ahead, its weapon's energy core now glowing like a newborn star. Varkle's scanners screamed with heat readings if it fired now. Nothing within range could survive. Target the core junctions, Ray shouted. If we hit those, the energy will overload. They dodged past a Dreno cruiser, narrowly missing a blast that would have split their ship in half. Then they were inside the platform's outer defense ring. It's close enough to see the weapons, massive plasma coils sparking with unstable energy. Varkle fired. Ray fired. Together, their shots ripped into the junctions, tearing through layers of armor. The glow of the core flickered, then flared brighter, too bright. It's going critical, Varkle yelled. They pulled away just as the platform erupted in a violent chain reaction. The shockwave hurled ships in all directions. Human and Zarnax vessels alike were tossed aside, some breaking apart under the force. When the light faded, the platform was gone only. A field of burning debris remained. The battle didn't stop. Zarnax ships regrouped, but the humans pressed. Their advantage, forcing them into retreat. Varkle's come crackled with a human voice, clear,
Strong,
and unmistakable. This is Admiral Ilias of the Earth Defense Fleet. The Zarnax fired first. We will answer. Ray leaned back, breathing hard. And that's it. The war just began. Varkle knew she was right. The depot's destruction was only the opening strike. The Zarnax would retaliate with everything they had, and the galaxy would soon remember the one truth humans had carried since their first war among the stars: they might choose peace. But once they chose war, they never stopped until it was finished.